One of the ways you can tell if it's a cult is if you can't really leave amicably.
Yeah.
It's like once you leave, you can't just say, hey, I'm going to go a different path, and God, spirits, or whatever are leading me in a different direction. It's not possible. I'm really afraid to leave, but I can't stay either because this doesn't make any sense to me.
I feel like a lot of us are waking up to the reality that our world is upside down. I can't even imagine how hard it would be to actually find yourself inside a cult. So like you kind of like, in a way, maybe you end up there, or the original people that went there end up there because of this, because of society feeling upside down. You go to this and you go, oh, this is the answer, because this is somebody saying, I know the way, and I'm going to show you. And then you get there and you go, oh, wow, this is more messed up than the thing I came from. It's got to make your brain go, where do I belong? Where do you land after that?
What brings more cohesion than a group that says, hey, we will accept you, we will love you, you can be a part of us. You just got to believe this exact same we believe and follow all of our rules. You will not only find love and acceptance here, but afterwards we all get to go to heaven. Some of it was bad, but some of it wasn't so bad, and some of it was actually good. In the dream, Danny said that this person came to him and said, I want Richard. Danny asked him what he wanted. He said, I want Richard. And Danny told him in the dream, he said, you can't have him, take me instead. And shortly after was when he was killed.
This time on the Beyond Numerology podcast, I'm sitting down privately with a man named Mark Leyba, who has a very interesting story. Mark is a survivor of a cult. His brother was a pastor within the group and played a central role in getting their entire family involved. For a long time, those beliefs shaped Mark's world, his relationships, and his understanding of reality. In this episode, Mark shares what happened when he began to realize that the belief system he was involved in no longer aligned with what made sense to him. He talks about questioning what he was taught, the risks of stepping outside that structure, and how he eventually was the first in his family to find his way out. We also take time to look at the numerological patterns woven throughout his life, including the meanings behind the birthdays and death days of his family members and the correlations that appear when you step back and really examine them. This is a vulnerable and honest conversation about survival, discernment, and learning to trust yourself again, supported by both lived experience and the questions that you must answer along the way. So without making you wait any longer, let's get into this episode. Welcome to Beyond Numerology. I'm Tammy Lopresti, the creator of Cosmic Ascended Numerology, a rare and super accurate way of decoding who you are and why you're here. If you're new around here, I'm so glad you found us. And if you've been in my world for a while, then you already know that I don't do numerology like everyone else. Think of this podcast as your weekly spiritual hangout, a place where we dive into your soul's plan, uncover what you came here to learn, understand, and experience, and help you wake back up to the you that you came here to be. Every Friday night at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, we record new episodes on Zoom and invite a live audience to hang out with us. This is your chance to be in the room while we chat with our guest of the week, do mini numerology readings, and enjoy occasional psychic insights from our guests. Whether it's card pulls, spirit guide messages from loved ones on the other side, or other surprises that they might bring. Want the VIP experience? Stick around for the after show where you can hang out with me and the guest of the week to answer your own questions and get a behind-the-scenes look at the magic happening live. It's always fresh, always different, and always a good time. So whether you're tuning in live or catching the replay, welcome. I'm so happy you're here, and I have a feeling you're going to love it. Now let's go beyond numerology, because your soul's plan starts right now. So Hi everyone. I am here today with Mark Leyba. Did I say your name right?
You totally did.
Okay. Okay. And he is joining us today because he wants to tell us about this unique pattern that's going on in his family. And so, Mark, I want to ask you, what do you do in the world? What is your
Sure.
passion? And then I'd like to get into your story.
Okay. Thank you so much, Tammy.
Of course.
And thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to me about
Of
this
course.
because this is something I've been interested in for years.
Yeah.
And, I'll just let you know right up front, I've interested in numerology, but I don't know a whole lot about it.
Yeah.
But if you really think about it, our whole world is made up of numbers. Everything can be boiled down to numbers and figures
Yeah.
and calculations. So I know there's got to be some truth here
Yeah.
with the whole idea of numerology.
Yeah.
So what I do, so I'm semi-retired,
Okay.
but I still work part-time. I work for a government entity as a leadership trainer and coach and facilitator. And I'm also an Enneagram practitioner. Some of your listeners may be familiar with the Enneagram. The Enneagram is a personality typing system, but it's even more than that. It's like a spiritual roadmap for your life when you really start to get into it. And I've been doing that for over 20 years. I use it professionally. I use it personally. I got my daughter certified, and you'll be interviewing her at some point, Beth Leyba, because you did the Enneagram assessment, and she'll be talking to you about that at some point. So she's really
which
looking forward to that.
which is going to be so fun.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. So I'm basically here just to kind of see if I can get some clarity as to why these patterns are repeating
Yeah.
in my life and in my family's life.
Yeah. So tell me about these patterns. Tell me what you've been seeing and what's been kind of like catching your attention because
Sure.
that's really the thing about numerology. Numerology is really amazing because it once you start understanding it and you start like paying attention to it, it
Right.
can tell you everything about your world because our
Wow.
whole world is made up of numbers and it's like the it's like the fabric of creation. So if you start
Hmm.
understanding what those numbers mean and you start getting in touch with the vibration of each one of them, you
Sure.
start understanding how to navigate your world with them.
Hmm.
So that's why numerology is so
That
amazing,
makes
you know?
perfect sense. Yeah, that
So
makes perfect sense.
yeah, and when you start paying attention to the numbers that you're seeing, like especially if you're seeing repeating numbers around you,
Hmm. Yeah.
that's communication. So not only do the numbers try and communicate with you because they're trying to encourage you to match their frequency and to walk with them the way that you
Sure. Okay.
intend,
Yeah.
because you come
Sure.
here with a plan. But also your spirit guides are sending you numbers on purpose to give you messages because they don't speak
Hmm.
in English like we do. They speak in signs and numbers. So that's another good reason to get to know
Okay.
what the
That
numbers
makes
mean.
sense. Sure.
So anyway, so let's talk about what are these numbers that you're seeing
For
and
sure.
how
For
is
sure.
how is it showing up for you in your family?
So before I get into that, I do have a
Yeah.
question for you too, because
Yeah.
when we share this recording,
Yeah.
the people who follow you will obviously understand the system and so on. But
Yeah.
I've been interested in numerology off and on over the years. And
Hmm.
the last time we spoke, you talked about how you did it differently than other folks did.
Yeah.
So maybe you can share how your system is, the system that you use and understand
Yeah.
might be different than what other people do.
Yeah.
I know even in the Enneagram world, there's different trains of thought. People have different ideas
Oh.
about certain things.
Yeah.
I think that's true in any kind of
Yeah.
learning environment. People have different opinions about things. So
Yeah.
for
Definitely.
myself and for my people, the people that I'll
Yeah.
share this with, who may
Yeah.
not know that much about numerology, how is yours different?
Of course.
And
So numerology itself is simply the study of numbers. Okay? Like that's
okay,
all that word means.
yeah,
So
yeah,
anyone that claims to be a numerologist, we are just translators of those numbers. Okay?
sure.
Now, there's all different types of numerology. I've seen a whole bunch of different types. The most popular is it, well, I don't know what it's called exactly, but you basically
Sure.
take the birthday and you can take people's names and you can take their birth
Hmm.
times and all of that and you kind of add them up and then subtract them and you come up with one number, kind of like the Enneagram, you come up with one number. Um That's the most popular. So like people come to me literally every day and they say, "Oh, I'm a life path, 3 or 5
Sure.
or whatever." And
Right.
I always have to say, "I'm really sorry. I don't want to break your heart or anything, but I don't know what that means,"
Of course. Sure.
because that doesn't mean anything in my type. So
Okay.
so what we do and what I believe is that you can't just narrow someone into one number. Like you're not just made up of one frequency because every number carries frequency.
That makes a lot of sense.
And you came here with a whole plan. That's why you have
Sure.
multiple numbers. So before you came here into this life, you said, "Okay, I want to learn these things about being human." It's not that
Hmm.
you're not trying to learn it all in one lifetime. So that's why we come back many times, many lifetimes. At least I believe
Sure.
that. That would be reincarnation.
Sure.
The reason why we come back so many times is because we're trying to learn all the aspects of all the different parts of being human. So every time we come, we take on a different part and it's a smaller portion. It's kind of like going to school and you just want to learn,
Sure.
you want to focus. So you focus on this set of numbers for this time and so that's kind of like your program. That's the program that you've decided on. So if you decided, "Oh, I want to learn about emotions and I want to learn about chaos and I want to learn how to manage chaos, really, you'll have numbers in your chart that are like helping you manage it, helping you understand it, but that's by growth, and growth happens by
Sure.
being uncomfortable. So you'll have a
Totally agree with that.
helper number and then you'll have a contradictory number that actually hurts that number. So the thing I see the most in charts is I'll see something really positive like I'm really strong and confident and I believe in myself.
Hmm.
That'll be in the top part of the chart. And then in
Right.
the
Right.
bottom of the chart, you'll have a number that says, "I'm a giant liar and I don't believe anything I say." You know,
Right.
and
Right.
that contradiction lives in a lot of charts, all different kinds of contradictions like that. And that's because that belief of not being good enough and not trusting yourself will actually
Hmm.
teach you how to be confident and how to trust yourself. So that's why we
Sure.
have the obstacles. So we bring the superpower that we want to actually learn how to step into, but we also bring the conflict that will help us step into that. So it'll make us uncomfortable enough that we learn how to step into that.
Okay.
So
Wow.
anyway,
Thank you for that explanation.
yeah.
That
So
makes a lot of
in
sense.
so the difference between my numerology and everyone else's, because I've never found mine anywhere else. I've been looking
Hmm.
for it my whole life. I can't find it anywhere else.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah. And if you find it somewhere, please tell me because I want
Yeah.
a book on it because I've learned mostly everything I know from my spirit guides. My mom Whatever
Wow.
my mom remembered from when she was 19 studying it when I was a baby,
Hmm.
that's what she gave me when I turned 30. And then from then on, the spirit guides have told me the rest. And that's how I've gotten this far with it.
Wow. Wow.
I've never read a book on it because I can't find a book on it. And the
Sure.
books about numerology that I have found the numbers don't even mean the same things, so I can't learn from them because it's just confusing to me.
Hmm. Okay.
So I have done all of my learning in practice and in spirit
Sure.
guide communication.
Of course.
Anyway, so the big difference is that I in when I do your numbers, I look at every number that you have in your chart and I
Hmm.
tell you what each number is kind of like equaling for your life. And then
Sure.
and then I look at how they combine with each other. So how they help and hurt each other as well. It kind of like gives you this variation in frequency, and I can feel that frequency. Like I can feel where you are in your growth and where you are in your
Right.
suffering. And I can feel the level of the vibration of each number because I've studied the numbers so much and walked with their energy for so long. It's like I know if you have a 4, so like a 4 is about chaos. Okay, it can be about
Hmm.
chaos. It's also
Right.
about travel and a bunch of other things. But so like I would look at the 4 and I would say, "Oh, he's got some chaos in there." And then
Hmm.
I kind of feel into that. And when I feel into that, I look around the chart and I go, well, who's helping that and who's hurting that?
Sure.
Who's making
Sure.
that worse and who's making that better? And so I'll look at your other numbers and I'll go, oh, okay. So that too is adding some confusion to the emotions around that chaos. And then the one is kind of pulling you out of it and giving you, independence and stability.
Right. Right.
And so I'm always measuring where are you in this chart, and that's why I'm tapping into right now and what you're doing now.
Okay. That
And
makes
then
sense.
luckily the guides are helping me as well. So I get messages
For
from
sure.
them too. But
For
yeah,
sure. For
so
sure.
that is the difference. I know it's a long explanation, but the difference
Well,
is
that's going to be very helpful for people who don't know that much about it.
yeah, the difference basically, the main difference that you'll see is that I do not reduce it to one number. I believe you're a collection of all of your numbers. You are the
Sure.
contrast of all of your numbers, and they're all important in your chart,
Right.
you
Right.
know? So,
Wow. That was a very good explanation. Thank you.
okay, good, good. Okay. So now tell me what's been happening and what have you been seeing?
Okay, yeah. So, just maybe a little background for the viewers,
Yeah.
how I found you. So, I saw you online. I've watched a couple of your videos. I thought they're really
Yeah.
fascinating. And like I said, I've looked at other numerology videos, and I've read some books. I remember reading a book years ago by Dan Millman.
Okay.
He was the guy who wrote Way of the Peaceful Warrior, and then later on he wrote
Oh.
a book on numerology. That's
Oh,
more of the other
cool.
system that you talk about. So.
Yeah, cool.
Um, you had put out a request for people who they thought their story was interesting.
Yeah.
So I sent you a link. I did a podcast
Hmm.
with an individual who. So myself and my family. We are cult survivors of a cult
Yeah.
by the name that goes by the term The Message.
Okay.
And the person who founded the cult, he's been dead for 50, 60 years now, was a guy named William Marion Branham. And the
Okay.
people that follow that cult, what they believed was that this man was the forerunner to the second coming of Christ. Just like John the Baptist was the forerunner to the first coming of Christ, they
Okay.
believed that he was the forerunner to the second coming of Christ.
Okay.
And so he had a lot of very strange, it was very strict and legalistic. For instance, women couldn't wear makeup, they couldn't cut their
Mm.
hair. And what you'll see with a lot of cults is that the burden falls more on women because they are judged so harshly as to things they have to do, not as
Mhm.
hard on men because they're all
Yeah.
patriarchal, or at least most of them all.
Yeah.
So I sent you the link to the podcast
Yeah.
where I told my story about the cult, how we got involved in the cult, how we got out of the cult. I was the first one in the family to really get out 40
Yeah.
something years ago, and how a good portion of the rest of my family stayed there. And my brother was actually a leader in the local cult here in Denver, or one of the branches of the or the attributes of the cult.
Yeah.
And he ended up dying as a pastor of a cult church.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah,
That
it's
is
an interesting
crazy.
story. So I
Yeah.
sent it to you, and
So I
you eventually
will
watched
put
it.
that, yes, I did watch it, and I will put that link in the show
Okay,
notes so everyone
that'd
else
be
can
great.
watch it if
That'd be
they want
great.
to.
That'd be
Yeah.
great. And
Yeah.
for me, I did it for a couple of reasons. I think it's important that people tell their stories.
Yeah.
We live in a day and age where our stories, so many people have so many things to share and say, and they
Yeah.
never have the opportunity. And
Yeah.
especially as you get older, I'm going to be 68 here soon.
Yeah.
I think it's important that we look backward and we try to figure out what has been the trajectory of our lives and what has guided us and where we're at. And we
Yeah.
look at, like you talked about, the trauma we've been through and how we overcome it, and try to make sense of all of that.
Hmm.
So even though we left the cult, my wife and I left the cult over 40 years ago, telling the story was incredibly healing for me.
Yeah.
It was kind of like one of the last things, like, we were free of the cult, but I felt like there was always a residue. And it
Yeah.
was kind of like telling that story kind of allowed it to kind of just dissipate.
Yeah.
And it was
You
like, it
know,
was very freeing to tell that story.
someone told me once that she was involved in the Mormon church for a long time and that
Yeah.
it felt like tentacles were
Hmm.
attached to
Oh,
her.
yeah.
And she said, even long after you leave, you feel like you still have some leg wrapped around you somewhere,
Totally. Totally.
That's what it felt like, or
Oh
that's what,
yeah, totally. Well,
yeah,
especially if you have other family members involved, because
yes,
one
yes,
of the ways you can tell if it's a cult is if you can't really leave amicably. It's
Yeah.
like once you leave, you can't just say, "Hey, I'm going to go a different path," and
Yeah.
God, spirits, or whatever are leading me in a different direction. It's not possible. You're demonized. You're shunned. You're told
Yeah.
they tell stories that you're the devil. This particular cult had this thing where they put people out from under the blood of Jesus because being Christian, they believed that the blood of Jesus was an atonement for our sins, and they thought they had the power to take people out from that by doing one of
Wow.
their magical ceremonies and push them out because they
Wow.
weren't following the cult rules or they weren't believing the cult doctrine.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard. It takes sometimes
Yeah.
the deconstruction process, that's the term that's used.
Yeah.
It's in some ways it's a lifetime experience.
Was it scary for you to talk about once you did?
Well, I've been talking about it off and on, since we left. When we
Mhm.
first left, I was terrified
Yeah.
because when people leave a cult, I think one of the first things is this cognitive dissonance that,
Hmm.
it was just over and over and over again. They were told this is the right way. This is
Yeah.
God's path. If you leave this, you're going to go to hell or something bad's going to
Yeah.
happen to you. So when things
Yeah.
don't make sense anymore and you start to question
Yeah.
it, there's this cognitive dissonance that it's like, I'm really afraid to leave, but I can't stay either because this doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
And a lot of people stay. They don't make any effort to get past that cognitive dissonance. So they stay in the cult and they're miserable. They hate it, but
Hmm.
they feel like if they left, that they would be leaving God's will or God's plan,
And they'll be
and
punished for that
and they'll
as
be
well.
punished, right? They'll go to
Yeah.
hell, or you
Yeah.
know, um, they even have a term in this cult and other Christian cults. I turn them over to Satan for the destruction of their flesh.
Wow.
So they actually almost hope that something
Yeah.
bad happens to you when you leave the cult to prove to you
Terrible.
that they were right and you were wrong. So if somebody leaves a
Wow.
cult and then they get cancer or something, the cult leaders are going to go,
Yeah.
see, that's what happened to them because they left the true church. They left the ministry.
Wow.
So yeah, it's
Yeah.
really horrible. It's
It's
really horrible.
yeah, it's really complicated, like
Yeah, for sure.
so I bet, because I feel like a lot of us are waking up to the reality that our world is upside down, like just culture itself, society
Right,
itself is upside down. And a lot of
right.
people are coming into spiritual awareness just by that alone. They're just looking around and going, this doesn't make sense. I don't know why
Yeah,
we're
for
doing it
sure.
this
For
way,
sure.
and I'm not going to keep participating.
Yeah.
Well, I can't even imagine how hard it would be to actually find yourself inside a cult as well.
Mhm.
Like
Right.
so like you kind of like in a way maybe you end up there or the original people that went there end up there because of this, because of society
Sure.
feeling upside down. You go to this and you go, "Oh, this is the answer because
Right.
this is somebody saying I know the way and I'm going to show
Right.
you." And then you get there and you go, oh, wow, this is more messed up than the thing I came from. But then you come
Exactly.
out of it and you're still in a world where nothing makes
Right.
sense. That's
Right.
got to
Right.
be hard, like
It's really hard.
it's got to make your brain go, where do I belong? Where do I put my faith? What is the truth?
Right.
So
Right.
where do you land after that? You know?
Well, yeah, that's really interesting. Thank you for bringing that up because I totally agree with everything you're saying.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's really helped me understand my path and also the path of other people who've been involved in cults and just growth in general is
Yeah.
understanding adult development.
Yeah.
So one of the parts of the Enneagram that's it's not really a part, but the company that I work with
Mhm.
have joined it together
Yeah.
is you can do an Enneagram assessment that shows your Enneagram type. But there's another piece if you want to go to this direction that shows at what level of adult development you are. And the
Oh,
whole
neat.
concept of adult development is relatively new.
Mm.
Prior to the 1970s or so, 60s, the
Yeah.
belief is that once you hit 2025, you appear, you're grown, you're done, and
Yeah.
not a whole lot's going to change.
Yeah.
And they've realized that that's false, that you can continue
Yeah.
to grow all of your life.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of incredible researchers over the years that have come up with models and patterns as to what that growth looks like.
Yeah.
Claire Graves was one of them, Robert Kagan, William
Neat.
Torbett. These are people dedicated their lives to understanding how adults develop past childhood.
Yeah,
So
that's
I've
awesome.
studied some of that, and
Yeah.
I am certified as a practitioner to do the assessment.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
really, one of the best models I like is one by Robert Kagan. And
Okay.
he says there's basically four levels of development. There's the first level of development where it's like early childhood, and I
Mm-hmm.
believe he calls it sovereign mind. And
Okay.
it's egotistical. I know another model uses the term egocentric mind. It's
Okay.
where all children are concerned about is themselves.
Yes.
And they should be, because that's their
Yeah.
path, right?
Yeah.
Initially, when they leave, or when they're with their mom, they can't even tell the difference between themselves and their mother, because the
Mm.
connection is so intense and so tight. So as they
Yeah.
differentiate and they individualize into a separate human, they start to realize, no, I'm not my mom. I'm different. I'm not my own person.
Yeah.
So that's that first stage. It's very egotistic. It's very self-centered, and it's supposed to be. But
Yeah.
sadly, a small percentage of human beings never grow past that stage.
Yeah. I know
I think it
some
was
like that
estimated,
for
like,
sure.
well, exactly, right?
Yeah.
Criminals, certain
Yeah.
politicians that we won't name,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
it's just all about them. They don't really see.
Yeah.
So, but thankfully, only about 5% of people are in that point. The
That's
next stage is something called socialized mind.
okay.
And this is where you feel like you realize that there's other people around you. You realize that you're part of some kind of a community or a family or a tribe. And it's
Yeah.
important for you to feel like you fit in. And
Mm-hmm.
this is a really important part of adult development. And sadly, it's a part that in our day and age, in our time, it gets dysfunctional for people. And I think this
Yeah.
is why one of the reasons people are attracted to cults, because
Yeah.
they're looking for a tribe, they're looking for a place to belong, they're looking for an identity.
Yeah.
And I think that whole idea of having an identity is to who I am. That's so important.
Yeah.
And the cult. So my wife and I have talked about this a lot, because we
Mm-hmm.
met in high school.
Nice.
We were at the time we were born again Christians, and then my brother got us involved in the cult. And
Okay.
he was a born again Christian now. And full disclaimer, both my wife and I are not Christians any longer, but
Yeah.
I believe Jesus was a powerful person, and he had a lot of truth that he shared. But
Mm-hmm.
that's a separate subject altogether. So
Yeah,
getting
but
back to these stages, right? So the
sure.
socialized mind piece, um, what my wife and I have talked about is we both came from really dysfunctional families. And
Mm-hmm.
we were looking for family. We were looking for something that brought cohesion. And
Mm-hmm.
what brings more cohesion than a group that says, "Hey, we will accept you. We will love you. You
Yeah.
can be a part of us. You just got to believe this exact same we believe and follow all of our rules. You will not only find love and acceptance here, but afterwards, we all get to go to heaven." And
Mm-hmm.
it's this sense of
Yeah.
belonging, finally, that people are looking for in this second stage, right?
Well, and
But
that sense of community, that
yeah, totally, right?
brotherhood and, I help you and you help me, all of that. Like we don't
Right.
find that. I think that's why people go to church at all.
Well,
Like any
exactly,
church,
exactly. And
so
we don't we were brought up to live in a tribal community. I mean, we
yeah.
might be living in the 21st century, but we're still Stone Age children.
Yes, of
We
course.
were meant to be brought up in a community where we were loved by the community and protected by the community. We had an
Yeah.
identity through the community, and that has been lost through the ages and through the generations and through the centuries. So
Yeah.
now people just feel so lost, and it's the cult,
Yeah.
whatever the cult happens to be, whether it's religious or political, it's so incredibly attractive. And in
Yeah.
order to get out of the cult,
Yeah.
you have to be willing to go to the next stage of development, which is what they call self-authoring mind. Now,
Okay.
this is where you create your own view of the world, your own paradigm, and your own perspective, where you're able to look at what you had and say, okay, some of it was bad, but some of it wasn't so bad, and some of it was actually
Yeah.
good. And
Yeah.
you're able to take it, and then you're also able to look at other belief systems, and you're able to kind of cultivate and create your own sense of what is right and wrong.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be, well, I'm Mormon, or I'm Catholic, or I'm Republican, or I'm Democrat, whatever it happens to be. It's like
Yeah.
you're able to see more of the truth and the fallacy in all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then the last stage, which a very few percentage of people get to, is called the self-authoring mind, where you even go beyond that, and you're able to see things even in a greater and a deeper perspective.
Okay.
So anyway,
And
that was
well,
one of the things that has helped me.
what is the greater and deeper perspective then, if you do end up getting that far?
I think the greater and deeper perspective, I mean, that's a really good question because I think it's different
Mhm.
for everyone.
Yeah.
I think what you realize is that so part of the individuation process is we're all looking at the world through lenses, but
Yes.
we don't realize it, right?
Of course.
And
Yeah.
as we individuate and as we grow, we realize that we're looking through lenses, right, that
Hmm.
are not necessarily a part of us, and we're able to take them off.
Yeah.
And I think what happens, and this is part of the growth process, is we try on other lenses, and
Hmm.
some of them look good, some of them don't. But when you get to the final stage, I think, and like I said, not very many people get to that point. Uh, when you get to that final stage, you recognize that all of the lenses have good and bad in them. That
Yeah.
there's not any of them that are perfect.
Yeah.
There's a quote by a guy by the name of George Box. He says, "All models are false, but
Hmm.
some are useful."
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's a good
even the
quote.
Enneagram, which
Yeah.
I love the Enneagram to
Yeah.
get. It's just a
Yeah.
useful model.
Of course. It helps you navigate this very complicated,
Exactly,
experience.
right?
And I think anything that does that is helpful. That's why we
Yeah, for
have all
sure.
the different modalities of spirituality and all of those things. We're just
Exactly, right?
we're just all trying to navigate something that's we don't know how to navigate.
We're just trying to
So,
find our place in the world, and we're trying to find,
yeah.
what's important.
Yeah, Oprah says this thing, like, I don't know exactly how it goes, but she says this thing like every human just wants love, acceptance, and to know that they matter or something like that. Um, I have found that that is
Yeah,
absolutely true. Like, there's very few things that a human really searches for, like really
yeah,
needs. And I've talked to so many different people from so many different cultures. And like
right.
I always tell people I used to be a Lyft and Uber driver for 5 years.
Did you really?
And yeah, and that was my favorite job. And I
Yeah,
mean, although it was very dangerous, and I did have to leave that job at some point because the danger just didn't equal the pay anymore.
of
Um,
course, of course.
it taught me so much because I met people from all over the world because I live in Austin, Texas. So like doing that in Austin, Texas, having, people flying in from every place, in all
Sure.
different lifestyles. You talk to so many different people, and I was not your typical Uber driver. Like I was somebody that was going to ask you really deep questions, and
Yeah,
I
that's
did
cool.
all the time, and it was so
Yeah.
fun. So I'll never forget this one day. There was this guy from, I think, India, but I'm not sure
Hmm.
exactly where he was from. He had a heavy accent. He told me where he was from at the time. Um, but we were talking. It was a long ride, and
Yeah.
I I got out of that ride realizing that all people are the same, no matter where they come from, no matter
Yeah, for
what
sure. For
no
sure.
matter what they've been through, they're all the same. They want the same thing. They want their family to be okay. They want to know that they matter and that, they're doing something good in the world, usually is what their goal is. Um, but they just want like security and comfort and safety, and they want their family to be okay. And that's all he talked
So
about was
true. So
all
true.
of those things. And I got out of that ride and I thought, holy crap, we're all the same. Like we
Yeah,
think that we're so
exactly.
different, but we're all the
Right.
same.
We're
So,
all connected.
yeah.
We're all connected. That's so
Yeah.
true.
And I
So
think that
true.
we get drawn to churches and religions and cults and politicians and like
Yeah,
all of that.
yeah,
I think we need that kind of connection sometimes because sometimes we want someone to tell us, like this is the way it is. Just do it the way it is and everything's going
right,
to be fine.
right.
And the problem is I haven't found any place in the world that I agree with. Like I don't want to follow anyone else's plan because
Yeah,
usually their plan is really wonky, you
and
know?
you know what? That is the perfect description of self-authoring mindset, where you are past the socialized mind and you're realizing, I don't need anybody, or I can
Yeah.
benefit from it, but I don't have to
Yes.
follow it exactly.
Yes, and that's
Yeah,
that's where I think I've landed. I'm not saying I'm above any kind of
of
understanding. It's
course.
just
Right, right, right.
it's just I feel like I've landed in a place where I've taken a little bit from everywhere that I've seen,
And
and
that's
that
really
has
cool.
constructed what I believe now, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
I think everybody should do that. Like you
They do.
shouldn't
They should.
you shouldn't be stuck on one set of beliefs or one
Right.
pattern of existence. You should go, "Oh, I like this and I like this." And maybe they
Right.
don't go together normally, but I'm going to put them together because that's what I like. That's what I resonate
Right.
with,
Right.
you know? So
And that's a
that's
really
how it
healthy
should
way to
be.
live, but so many people are afraid to do that.
Well, because like you experienced, you're told not to. You're told it's
Exactly.
not
That's exactly right.
okay, and
Right.
you're told that there's limitations there. Like you're gonna go to hell if you
Right.
like certain things that they don't agree with, you
Well,
know?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
People are even told things like, I even in my family, I'm Hispanic,
Hmm.
Latino, and other generations, we were told don't marry outside of your ethnicity.
Oh yeah, I
You
was
know,
told that
yeah,
too. Yeah.
I was told, even my mom told me when
Yeah.
I was young. Sadly, I lost her when I
Yeah.
was only 15, but
Yeah.
she said, Hito, she says, I don't think you should marry a white girl. She
Yeah.
said, if you want to date them, it's okay. But she
Wow.
said, don't
Wow.
marry
But
one.
don't fall in
And
love.
exactly right, exactly.
Like you
So,
can control that.
exactly. So, yeah, there's all these very, very restrictive belief systems that, you know,
Yeah.
and I think
Well,
more and more people are breaking free from these things.
we're in a time now. So this, I was just talking about this the other day with someone in a session. We're in a time now where we're vibrating as a collective in a frequency of growth and understanding of our emotions, you
Hmm.
know? So
Right.
twos are all about your emotions. It's the heart chakra,
Okay.
and
Interesting.
it's all about, de-raveling kind of the confusion around
Hmm.
emotions, and
Right.
getting
Right.
clearer on what matters to you, and then getting in touch with the vibrations around you so you can match them and vibe
Yeah.
with them,
Yeah.
right? So I was telling this person, I said, all of the children that were born after the year 2000 came with different programming than the children born in the 1900s, you know?
Really? Huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I bet.
Yeah, they did. And that's why we're having a lot of gender issues, and it's why we're having a lot of race issues, and we're having a lot of extreme behavior in that way. And the
Hmm.
reason why is because those are the things that separate us and divide us. Those are the things that
Yeah.
teach us that we're different. Like even
Right.
down to the simplest thing, a male and a female being different. The truth is we all come from the same place. We are all made up
Well,
of the same
exactly.
stuff. And
We
when we
totally are.
stop seeing all of the differences, we start acting like one. Yeah, like that's how
Yeah.
we're supposed to act.
Well, yeah, that makes
And
sense.
so that's where I think it will land at some point. It will
Hmm.
land on unity with everyone,
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah. Well, that's the
For sure.
goal, I think,
Yeah. And I agree. And I
Yeah.
even think if you look at a lot of indigenous prophecies and we'll go back to what some of like the Hopi and the Navajo and so on, they talked
Yeah.
about a time when all colors and all races of humanity will come together and
Yes.
they will go back to the older ways,
Yes. And that's
you know?
because they will realize what truly matters instead of the
Exactly.
chaos that we're taught to think about.
Exactly.
The other thing that people don't know, and this is a little bit outside of this subject, but it's important,
Of course.
is that we are vibrational beings.
Hmm.
We are made up of frequency, like we are made up of not made up of frequency, but we vibrate in our world like that. We're made up of
Sure.
atoms that vibrate,
Right.
and the way that we do things in this world, the way that we get our world to work is that we match vibration. And if we learn how to match vibration better than
Hmm.
we've ever learned before, um, we will actually be able to call in the life that we want.
Right.
And
Right.
so we are taught not to understand our emotions and to shut them off. Like we're given a pill so that we don't feel grief, we don't feel pain, we don't feel
Hmm.
depression, we don't even get sick. Like it's not even appropriate to get sick. So like we're given a pill for all these things, but really it's to get us to not feel. And if you
Wow.
realize that You are a vibrational being and you cannot manifest anything without feeling it. You would understand that that's an agenda.
Hmm.
It's an agenda to keep people stuck and broken and
Yeah,
not okay.
that makes sense.
But if
That
you
makes sense.
learn that you're a vibrational being and you start learning how to match the vibrations that you want, you
Hmm.
will actually turn your emotions way up and you will be
Right,
able
right.
to do anything that you want to do. And that is what this entire time period is about, is relearning that,
Hmm.
because that's been
Sure.
edged out of us, as
Right,
much as
right.
it could possibly be, at this point. So yeah, so that's the time period that we're in. That's what's going on here.
Wow, wow.
Yeah, that's what I
Well,
believe is going
thank
on.
you for sharing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
So
of course. I know that's a little off
this was
subject, but
well, but I think it's really important. I'm really glad we were
yeah.
able to talk about these things because I think it sets a context for,
Yeah.
where we're at, where everyone is at, really.
Yeah.
So to get
Yeah.
back
So
to
yeah,
why I
I was gonna
contacted
say,
you,
so
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so the
So
cult
part
and
of
all
my
of
family
that.
story, I talked
Yeah.
about the cult. It was repeating numbers and where and what dates people died.
Yes.
So my mom, sadly, she died in June 11th of 1973,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
And thankfully, though, she did not experience the part of the cult that went over for the next 40 years into our family.
Hmm.
She died before that happened. So thankfully, she didn't
So
have to
she was
experience
not
that.
part of the cult.
No, she
Okay.
was not.
That's good.
All right. And neither was my dad. My dad was a very practical kind of thinker. And my mom was a seeker. She had a
Yeah.
lot of trauma in her own life. She had
Yeah.
polio when she was 2, and she ended up getting
Yeah.
cancer. And she had an addiction to prescription drugs. She had a lot of issues, but she was
Mhm.
deep down inside, she was a good person and a kind person.
Yeah.
And
I can see
she was
that.
always seeking things. I remember when we tried the Mormon Church, and I think she
Hmm.
tried Jehovah Witness. She was always and for that particular era, the
Yeah.
way people looked for personal development was through religion.
Yeah.
There wasn't these other
Yeah.
things that they could look at because they weren't really that well known.
Yeah.
So she died on the 11th, right?
Hmm.
And then, all the cult stuff happened that
Hmm.
started. And in 1985, so we were pretty much out of the cult by that time.
Okay.
But my brother Richard he still had his church, and again, I really made sure I clarified this in the other podcast, was that I
Yeah.
don't think my brother was a bad person. I actually think
No.
he was a good person, and he really wanted to help people. And I miss that part of him greatly, but he was a victim too. And
Of
he was
course.
deceived by the cult teachings and the cult doctrine.
Of course.
So what happened, sadly, very tragically, my brother Danny was murdered. Um, he had separated from his wife. He was living in an apartment unit, and he'd had this friend that was in the apartment unit, and they had a disagreement, and the friend ended up shooting him, killing him.
Wow. That's
Now
awful.
he died on the 11th as well, but the 11th
Oh,
of April. All right, and
yeah.
he was 30.
Yeah.
And here's some other interesting numbers. So
Oh,
my
yeah.
mom died in 1973. My brother Danny
Yeah.
died on the 11th. My brother Danny died on the 11th, different month, but on the 11th, and
Yeah.
he was 37. Okay.
Oh, so
So
yeah, so
now,
73 reversed. Okay.
right. All right. So
Yeah.
now you fast forward. So there's all this time in history that goes from 1985 to 2005.
Mm-hmm.
The cult goes on. Their other family members thankfully leave. A lot of people still stay, but thankfully other family members have left.
Mm-hmm.
My brother Richard's health really declines poorly, and he eventually passes away too. But guess what day he dies on? The same exact day
Yeah.
that my brother Danny died, April 11th, but
You see.
2015, 30 years to the day
Wow.
that my
Yeah.
brother Danny died.
Yeah.
So, and here's another interesting thing. My brother
Yeah.
Richard was 73 when he died.
Oh, wow.
Danny was 37. So you
Wow.
have this repeating 11, and then you have this
Hey,
repeating numbers of 3 and 7.
yeah.
Either 3 and
Yeah.
7 or 7 and
That's
3.
that's really interesting. Um, so your mom, how old was she?
She was 47
Okay.
when
I
she
just
died.
I just wanted to write it now,
Sure,
because
sure.
I'm writing the ages now. Okay. Yeah, these are very interesting patterns. Um, So we did meet once already to talk about
Yep.
this a little bit. And,
Yeah.
what I found the first time was I thought it was shockingly obvious that you are very different than most of your family. Um,
Hmm.
you have some similar patterns, but you
Sure.
don't have the extreme patterns that every single one of them have, you know?
Hmm.
So I see it in every single chart. There's confusion except yours. And
Hmm.
there's a lot of like even your dad has confusion all over his chart. And his is not the same as like I would say your older brother, his is not,
Yeah.
well, okay, sorry. I say that and then I
That's
look at
okay.
it and I'm like,
Maybe
oh,
you're seeing something different,
actually,
right? For sure. For
actually
sure.
it is pretty similar. Um, it's not, it's a little bit different, okay, but I would say the only real difference is that he was walking in authenticity and Richard had
Hmm.
trouble with that. So
Interesting. Interesting.
So those are the big differences I see between your dad and your oldest brother that would be the cult leader. That was who he was.
Right.
The
And
brother.
he
Okay.
wasn't, just to make this
Yeah.
clear for people who are listening, he was the cult called the message had
Okay.
all sorts of variations to it. So he was a
Okay.
cult pastor here just in the Denver area.
Okay, so he
Um,
was he was the leader of one church, not
exactly.
not the
Right.
whole cult
Eh,
in general.
no, no. And there
Okay.
once Branham died,
Yeah.
there was all sorts of fractions in the cult. And so
Yeah.
there were all these different people who claimed to be the next, not necessarily the next prophet, but the next person who would lead the cult, into the promised
Okay.
land. So
Yeah.
there's all, and
Yeah.
a lot of times they fought bitterly with each other. So, and I know he had some
Yeah.
connections, and he had a particular vein of cult doctrine that he followed, and I'm not really quite
Yeah.
sure what that was because we had left it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, he was just the pastor of a church here in Denver.
Okay. Okay. Um, yeah, I don't I just wanted to make sure I could refer to him properly, so that's
Of
good.
course,
I'm glad
sure.
that
He
you
was a pastor.
clarified.
He
Yeah.
was the group that I've been belonged to. We have a Facebook group who've left this
Yeah.
cult. We call them cult pastors.
Okay. Okay. That makes
Yeah. So
sense.
he was a cult pastor.
Okay. So so when I look at his chart, so I've written out
Mhm.
all of the charts of you, your two brothers, your mom and your dad. Okay, so this is your whole immediate family. Um,
Yeah.
okay.
There's nobody else left. That's
Okay.
my family of origin.
Okay. Yeah. So I've written it all out, and when I look at it, it's like I can see it. Like I can see confusion around your whole family. I can see self-doubt. So Richard specifically was ruled by self-doubt. That was his biggest thing that he was ruled
Hmm.
by. And
Yeah.
then at the same time, he was very arrogant. So like he would pretend that that wasn't happening. He would
Sure.
so he was a man of many faces is how I would
Hmm.
put it. He could show one face and feel another.
Ah.
And he was willing to push anyone away from him and outside of his realm, basically, of existence, that did not agree with him. Like it was either his way or
Hmm.
no way.
Right.
And he believed, so I want to say he believed what he was doing was right. I don't know if I think that though. So he
Hmm.
has a
That's
lot of
interesting. I
self-doubt.
may.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure.
like, I want to say that he believed in it because it's kind of like I want to say that, okay? Because he
Sure.
does have integrity in his chart. So
Okay.
there is a sense of him that I would say, yes, he definitely had to believe in it to do it, okay?
Right. Right.
But I'm feeling like he realized at some point that it was false and still
Hmm.
walked it, you know, because he was probably
Hmm.
already into it so far.
Too
Oh,
deep.
and okay, so this is what I'm hearing now from the guides, okay?
Hmm.
Um, that's where his illness came from. So his illness came
Wow.
from his incongruency between what he was doing and practicing and teaching
Hmm.
and what he actually found out himself, what he then
Right.
believed later
Right.
himself.
Right.
So the incongruency in his body is what caused some kind of illness that led to his
Mm.
death. That's what they're telling me. You know, like
Wow.
that's what I'm feeling.
Wow.
So, well, not what I'm feeling, that's what they're telling me. That's what I'm hearing. Um, so and I didn't ask that. It was just I was trying to figure out if he believed what he was
Sure.
walking,
Right. Right.
and it looks like yes he did, and then no he didn't, and then he continued it anyway. And then that is what causes illness for a lot of people. That's a known
Mm.
problem that I see a lot is like
Sure.
whenever you're not being true to yourself, it's like your
Right.
body cannot handle that and will
Sure.
act
Sure.
out, you know?
Right. Right.
So that's what
Hmm.
happened.
That's
And
really interesting.
then, yeah, that is interesting. And then there's a level of mental illness in his chart as well. So there's a lot
Gee.
of confusion around his own emotions and how to express them. And then he also has a lot of leadership energy. So he would feel like I'm the one in charge. I'm the one that's supposed to tell everyone what to do.
Right.
He's also the model of who to be. So like if he's okay, everyone's okay. Like have you ever
Hmm.
heard that happy wife, happy life kind of saying?
Sure. Sure.
He would be that person where if
Hmm.
he's happy, everyone gets to be happy, but if he's unhappy, no one gets to be happy, you know? So
Wow.
that's how he would live, you know, like that's
Sure.
how he
Sure.
would run his family and that's how he would run his life, you know? Um, I don't normally look at extremist people like their chart.
Hmm.
So like I'm not
Sure.
used to seeing such big energy concentrated this way. It
Right.
is a
Right.
little bit overwhelming when I look at it
Hmm.
because the state of confusion is really big here, you know?
Wow.
And he's got a willingness to fight even when he's wrong, you know, like he's just kind of got it all over his chart. Everywhere I look, I go, oh, he's got a lot of self-doubt, he's got a lot of insecurity, he's got a lot of chaos, and then he thinks he's right. So I see the
Right.
arrogance too, and I
Hmm.
see the my way or no way, you know, like that's all going on in his chart.
Right.
Your whole family has these same patterns, you know, except
Hmm.
you. You don't have any of those patterns, actually. Like, you don't have
Hmm.
any of the chaos. You don't have any of the uncertainty. You don't have any of the confusion or the emotional troubles. You don't have any of that. What you struggle with is people pleasing. So you would have an extreme people pleasing problem, you know,
Sure. Sure.
and you would feel physically ill if other people aren't okay. You know, like that's how
Right.
you would
Right.
feel. So you kind of are the type of person that would be giving more of yourself than you should to help others, you know, whereas,
Hmm.
you know, in Richard's case, he wouldn't do that. Like he would make sure he's okay first and then he would take care of others. And his goal would be the good of others, you know, depending on who
Hmm.
those
Sure.
others
Sure.
are. It's just that he's very choosy about who he cares about and who he doesn't, whereas you're
Well,
not.
you have to be in the cult,
Yeah, you would have
you
to be
know?
part of his little club. And, but
Exactly.
that would, even if he wasn't an extremist like that, that would have happened in his family dynamic anyway. Like that would have been his dynamic,
That's
period,
interesting.
because that's who
Sure.
he is, you know?
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And then he shares some of that with your dad. So, like, your dad
Hmm.
also has some of that, even though he has a very different vibration than Richard and a very
Hmm.
different, like, kind of life path. He does share some of that you know, if I'm happy, everyone gets to be happy, and if I'm not,
Right.
nobody gets to be. He's also willing to shut people out if he needs to, but he does
Hmm.
it in a different way. So, like, his way is kind of like he's very misunderstood and he feels very misunderstood. And I know he's not
Hmm.
alive anymore, but
Right.
I always tap into what people feel when they are alive, you know,
Of
like
course.
what
Sure.
this
Of
would have
course.
created, you know. So he is also someone that will fight even when he's wrong, but he will believe he's right. You know, like he's not.
Hmm.
So like I feel like the difference is that Richard would know he's wrong when he's fighting at some point and fight anyway because of his ego. Okay. Your
Sure.
dad doesn't have it that way. It's kind of like he will fight even when he's wrong, but it will be because he thinks he's right. He thinks he's
Sure,
leading
sure.
people and he thinks he's
Um,
showing them the right way, you know? But he has,
he was very passive. He could be passive aggressive.
yeah, I could see that.
Um,
Yeah.
but he was not, it was really difficult for him to make his voice heard. And I think,
Yes, he
uh,
struggles with his voice a lot.
right.
And he struggles with relationships. So,
Mhm.
like, he mainly struggles with knowing how he feels and knowing what he wants. He doesn't really know those things. Like,
Mm. Interesting.
he would have an internal battle where he's like, I think I want this, but I'm not sure if I want this. You know, like, I'll tell people this is how it translates. Like, in your 20s, you don't know if you like someone, you love someone, or you just want to have sex with them. You know, this would be for him a lifelong
Right.
kind of feeling. You know, it would be
Interesting.
like he just
Interesting.
couldn't
Wow.
wrap his head around how he really feels. And then even if he does figure it out, which he could because he's a lover, he loves love, you know, and he wants to be loved so bad. Like you can see it in his chart. Um, if he does figure it out, which it looks like his other numbers could help him figure it out at some point, you know,
Sure. Sure.
he still would have trouble with expression because
Mhm.
he would feel like his voice doesn't matter as much as the people around him, or he would feel like he would try and say something and it wouldn't come out the way he would want it to come
Right.
out.
Right.
And then he would have frustration around that, and that would kind of lead him to kind of shut down and go inside of
Mm.
himself, you know. He also had trouble with trust. He didn't trust very many people at all. And maybe he didn't trust himself either. You know, like a lot of times
Mm.
it'll translate to that. But the thing that he does have that I think really helps him is, or did help him, is that he's so incredibly authentic. He had to be himself no matter what, and he did not let anything change that. So
Mhm.
I think it would be very hard for him to be in a cult.
Yeah.
So
He was the one family member who never got involved.
yeah, I think that would be very hard for him. And you know
Right.
what's funny is you have that pattern with him. So it would be
Mm.
very hard for you as well. So you may be not tempted, you may be um I don't know what the right word is. Like I'm seeing like presence, you know, like people
Yeah.
might,
Yeah.
you know, like people might kind of like get you to go, yeah, I'll try it. But it's more like people pleasing for you. Like
Mhm.
it's more like, well, I guess if you think it's cool, I'll try it, you know?
Sure. Sure.
And if that seems like it's working for you and making your life better, then maybe it'll make my life better too.
Right.
And so I could see you doing it for that, but you're not somebody that would ever buy into the bullshit, not for long. You would kind of
Yeah.
go, this doesn't make sense. And you would have that realization much longer than you acted on it, you know?
Sure. Sure.
You may not even have told anybody for a while that you had that realization, you know?
And I think that's true for a lot of people who end up leaving a
Yeah.
cult. And
Yeah.
I resonate with what you're saying about you know, my wife and I've talked about this is,
Yeah.
you know, would we have gotten involved in the cult if it wasn't for my brother Richard? And we both came to the
No.
conclusion that we probably wouldn't have.
No, you wouldn't have.
And I really looked to my brother as a mentor for most of my life. He helped me a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
You know, my dad was a house painter. My
Yeah.
brothers were house painters. I was initially a house painter for a few years, and
Yeah.
out of everybody, the one that taught
Yeah.
me the trade the best was my brother Richard. He really mentored me, and
Yeah.
he really showed me, you know, a whole lot of things.
Yeah.
So when he got involved in the cult, and he was very persuasive.
Yes.
He was
Like,
very
yeah.
persuasive. He was very charismatic. He was actually a really good speaker. If he would have been in some other realm of work, he probably would have done really, really well because he was
Yeah.
such a good speaker.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I mean, I saw him as my mentor, and that's why we got involved.
Yeah. Well, and he is the type that you're either in his world or out of it.
Right,
So to be with him, you would have to join whatever he's doing, and it wouldn't.
right,
And that, you know, like again, that's not just extremist behavior. That there's someone in my family just like this. You know, there's two people
sure,
actually,
right,
that you either join them or you're against them. And they will push you out if you don't agree
hmm
with their policy in life or
sure,
whatever, you know.
sure,
Um, but he's very much like that. And I can see where he's very charismatic and where he can draw on, he can draw on lessons even from past lives and bring them here and
Mm,
help himself here, you know.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, I can see that. And what's funny is that even though I know that your dad is completely different than him, like they
Hmm.
have a different vibration, they have a different operating system almost. They don't on paper, but they do in the vibration I'm feeling, you know.
Okay,
Um, on paper they look kind of similar, but in vibration they feel completely different. So,
sure.
it's funny because your dad has a lot of the same qualities as him, and I would want to say that your dad could be really charismatic and persuasive and all of those
Hmm.
things as well because he had all the same things. I think that he pulled different ways. Like
Sure, sure.
he would pull things from the past as well, from past lives
Hmm.
and things like that. And he had that ability. Um, but he was not in it for the same things that Richard was in it.
Right,
Like his goals in life were not the same.
right.
He had a humanitarian goal where
Hmm.
Richard has a more selfish goal. He's thinking more about him and his family and
Sure,
his life and what he gains, where your dad
sure.
would be thinking more about the whole, like what
Of
everyone
course.
would
Right,
gain.
right.
And Richard would disguise that. Like he's really good at putting on a mask. Like I really see that mask there.
Hmm. Okay.
Okay, and then, moving on kind of like
Sure, sure.
the person you share the most with is your mother. Like you have the most with her. You share that humanitarian goal with your dad and the authenticity. You share that.
Hmm.
That's what you're getting from your dad. Whenever
Right,
you look at charts, when you look at a whole family, you'll see that you get some things from your mom and some things from your dad, and you're made up of that. And then sometimes you'll have parts from your siblings, as well that make you kind of because you enter into a family, well, you enter into not just a family, but family, friends, and your whole
right,
kind of
right,
circle. You enter into the pattern that you're learning, the patterns that you're
right,
working on. You
right.
enter into a place where those patterns are happening all around you. So they're happening in good ways and bad ways to help you learn the things that you came here to learn. So,
Sure.
so with your dad, you share the humanitarian, you share the authenticity, you share you know, I want to clear family trauma. That's both of you are doing that.
Interesting, interesting.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been that apparent with him
No,
that
his
that's
is
what he was doing.
more
Because he was not
his.
a very spiritual person at all. And that's kind of his
Yeah.
saving grace in a way because it kept him out of the cult,
hmm
you know?
He wouldn't have joined that cult either way because he wasn't that kind of person. Like
Right,
he couldn't have done that.
right,
It would have gone against everything in him.
right, right.
So he wouldn't have done that, but he purposely was a pillar for the opposite, and that
He
would
was
be
very
how he was
steadfast. I mean, he
teaching.
was very loving and very kind, and very,
Yeah.
um, I mean, he really, I was mostly raised by my dad because my mom was
Yeah,
really
that's
ill and
hard.
she had her
Yeah.
addiction problems. So he pretty much raised me because my mom wasn't always in the picture because of her illness and her addiction. So yeah,
Yeah.
he was a good
Yeah.
guy. He really was. And everybody who
Yeah.
knew of him
Yeah.
that way. And he
He's
was he was kind of introverted, but he loved to tell stories.
yeah, that's
You
cool.
know, he
I
tells
like
stories
that.
about
Yeah.
he would talk about his time in World War II, where I know a lot of
Yeah.
veterans would
Yeah.
not. He talked about that. And
That's good.
I know one of the things I need to do, as I feel like part of my family obligation, is to write those stories down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You should.
But interesting. Thank you. This has been
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
fascinating. What about
Yeah.
the
So
number connection about the how
yeah,
they
so
might,
let's
especially how my
talk
brothers
about
died?
that. So
Yeah,
so um so 11, you have a lot of 11s, okay? And they're like
definitely
showing
right.
yeah, they're showing up like all over the place, okay?
Yeah.
I also think that it's very significant. Like when I see a death day, I
Hmm.
usually will make a story out of that. Like I will say like what did this mean? And
Hmm.
because Richard and Daniel share the same death day, and your mom is really close to that as well
Right.
because she has similar stuff. Um I would say that they were working together, as souls to create I always think of everything as creating a circle, like creating a loop
Hmm.
that finishes, And I think that that's what Richard and Daniel were doing together, is
Sure,
that they
sure.
were creating like the end of a loop or something like that.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So the fours are all about opportunities. They're about travel. They're about intuition. Like every number is about a lot of things. They're about chaos. They're about confusion.
Hmm.
So Richard's death day is that 2015 or 2005?
2015. My dad
Okay.
died in 2005 or
Okay.
2005.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just saying it wrong, but yeah. Um, but so I just wanted to make sure I wrote it down right. So
Of course.
if I were to make a story about Richard's death day, I would say he was coming out of confusion and into a solid path where he's creating a future for the family somehow. That's what it would
Hmm.
say to me. Okay.
Huh.
Then I would look at Daniel's death day and I would say he's also coming out of a state of confusion into a more solid path where it's more
Hmm.
intentional, to go toward clearing trauma of the family. So
Okay. Hmm.
both of them equal almost the same thing, except that Daniel's focusing more on trauma and Richard is focusing on maybe like where the family's headed, like more like the family's going to
Sure.
head in a better direction because of
Right.
his
Right.
exit. Like that's what it would say,
Sure.
and Daniel's would say my exit equals a clearing for the family. Like some kind of
Hmm.
clearing, some kind of I'm going to take some of the burden with me. So
Right.
what
Right.
I would say about that then is that he held a lot of the burden of the family. Like he
Hmm.
was someone who either caused a lot of trouble in the family or was very disruptive to the family.
Yeah.
Um, and that was all intentional, because
Right.
he was meant to be a distraction from a lot of other things.
Hmm.
So
That's
he
interesting.
caused focus to turn to him, you know.
Right.
Um, he also had a lot of self-doubt. Uh, he was a humanitarian, so he cared a lot about people. He shared your life purpose, which is you're here to find Zen. You're here to find
Hmm. Hmm.
oneness and you're working on peace. Like you're working on peace inside your
Sure.
body
Sure.
and peace inside your soul, like peace inside your whole world.
Right. Right.
That's what Daniel was also working on. Um, he has a lot of chaos in his chart though. And
Well, yeah, there was a lot of chaos in his life.
yeah. What's funny about his chart is that even though I see so much chaos around him, he finds that peace. Like he does.
Hmm.
He's someone who held that peace even though he had a lot of chaos. Like you can feel a
Do you think he maybe
Zen-like
found it
feeling.
in on the other side? Because
I
he didn't
think
seem to find it here.
I think in life he had a place that he could find it,
Okay.
like
Okay.
either in nature or in maybe other people because he's a humanitarian.
Hmm.
He's very charismatic, someone who draws people to him, you know, and then someone who gains energy from being around other people and having
Right.
experiences and travel. So, sorry, I see a lot of travel in his chart. So, I bet you he
Hmm.
found that peace in travel,
Yeah.
like in the middle part.
That's interesting because I don't, there was a period of time where he had left the cult too, but for different reasons, and he and his
Yeah.
wife were separated.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what he did for, a period of time
Yeah.
between leaving the cult and his death, but I don't know
Yeah.
if he actually did travel that much.
Well, that's the thing about
You
our
think it could mean something else?
society. Well, so sometimes, sometimes people will have travel in their chart. It will say that they're travelers and then they can't travel because of, limitation in society,
Sure. Right.
But he's absolutely a traveler. So I would say if he wasn't traveling physically, I know he's definitely
Would
traveling
it be, could it also be
physically.
mean that
So
you're a risk taker? Because he was a huge risk taker.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So he was absolutely traveling in this life.
Hmm.
Um, so if he wasn't physically traveling that you're seeing, okay, he
Right.
was
Right.
having adventures anyway in his own world,
Well,
you
he
know?
probably was.
And
I
those
wouldn't doubt that part.
adventures
Yeah.
were leading him to this peace.
Hmm.
So, or actually, I'm feeling like he was having the peace along the adventures. Like, okay, this is what I'm feeling. So he has a lot of inspiration around him and a lot
Hmm.
of like magical energy, like creation energy, where he would create ideas and then act on them. Like that's what
Right.
it feels like. That feeling of like, um, taking a risk, I guess, or being scared of something that you really want to
Sure.
do, like doing something bigger than you're ready for.
Right.
That
Right.
feeling right there in the middle of thinking about what you want to do and then doing it, that middle part is where his adventure is. So
Okay.
he is
Well,
finding
that makes more sense. I could see that about him.
yeah, he found excitement in that middle part where he was scared and the feelings were big. Like the energy was
Hmm.
big. And then that's
Right.
also what caused him that Zen feeling. So that's why he chased it. So were there drugs in his life? Like,
That's a good question. He wasn't a druggie at all, but
okay,
I did hear that he was a bodybuilder,
okay,
and I did hear that he did use steroids. And that's
okay.
not confirmed, so I don't know,
Yeah, that's not
if there's
really
family
what I
listening to
would think.
this.
But
Yeah, he
but
did
like
not.
was there alcohol or any kind of
Mm-mm.
escapism?
He didn't
Okay.
drink. I'm sure there was escapism.
Yeah.
He was, like I said, he was really a risk taker in other ways.
Yeah.
But he actually was one of the members of the family that did not have addictive tendencies in that respect. He
Okay.
didn't
Well,
drink, he didn't
that's good.
smoke.
It
Um,
just feels like that's where he finds his joy is somewhere that he escapes.
sure.
So I don't know exactly what that means, but I see him in that weird, it feels like glittery to me where he's
Mm,
in this moment of adrenaline. Like he gets in adrenaline feeling when he's like I'm gonna do this big thing that I'm scared of,
right, right.
and then that brings him to life. Like that's where he finds
He
his
had he had a really hot temper, and he got in a lot of fights.
yeah,
I mean, sadly, that's
yeah,
probably one of the things that led to his death. But
yeah,
yeah, he
yeah.
he he was
Oh,
like I said, he was a bodybuilder. He was very handsome,
yeah,
and I know
yeah,
people were attracted to him.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
Hmm.
interesting, interesting.
So, okay, so let's talk about the 11s. So the
Sure.
11 is all about astral travel and
Hmm.
it's all about kind of leaving this world and being in like an in-between state where you're still
Hmm.
alive
Right.
but you can go visit anywhere you want outside of this realm. Like that's really what astral travel is.
Hmm.
Um, your mom, Richard, and Daniel all died on an 11 day. Okay. What that tells me, like, it's kind of not, it's not something you would immediately think of, but because the numbers vibrate at different frequencies and you're going to match those vibrations by having that as a death day that's shared,
Right.
what it's showing me is that they go to a place where they plan this life. Like they go to a
Hmm.
place
It's interesting.
where it's all on purpose and where they're working together as a team. And I would think, even though that's their death day, I would say that probably signifies that that's what they were doing in life, is that they were all, maybe when they were sleeping, their souls were together and they were planning what was happening.
Wow. Hmm.
That's what I would say because I can see them working together. Like they
Sure.
look, they look to me like they're holding hands even though Richard and Daniel don't look like they get along. Um,
They did not get along for most of their lives. They
yeah,
got into a lot of fights. They were 5 years different.
yeah,
But and they were more like a unit. I came so much later that I was almost like a second family.
Yeah.
But they for a good part of their lives, they had a lot of animosity between them.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. But then in the astral, it does not feel like that. It feels like
Well,
they're
I
best
hope you're
friends,
right. Yeah,
you
I hope you're
know?
right. I'd love
Yeah.
to know that maybe they're all together
Yeah.
and they're happy now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So that's the thing that, I think a lot of people don't really realize is that, you know, on the other side, we realize that this is just a movie or a play that we're doing. Like this is not
Hmm.
any big deal. This is literally just a part of our existence that we're just acting out together. Like I'm playing Tammy now, you're playing Mark, and next time we might switch, or
Sure,
whatever,
sure.
you just kind of come into the experience that you're trying to learn for your soul's growth, but it doesn't
Right,
really mean a whole lot to the entirety of the soul,
right, right.
and when you get to the other side, you just go, wow, that was wild, like that time was wild. What were
Yeah,
we thinking, or whatever,
yeah.
But yeah, you're pretty much best friends with everyone that you're incarnating with. That's
Hmm.
why you're doing it. You're making pacts to help and hurt each other. And one of the things that I realized in my own life that I had to come to the realization of was, for so many years, people told me to hate my abuser. Like I was in a domestic violence situation that was very
Sure.
serious. And I I couldn't hate him and I couldn't understand why I couldn't hate him. And it was like I don't like him either, but I definitely don't hate him. And
Right,
even
right,
in the worst of it, I couldn't find that in me to hate him, even though I should have. Everyone else did, everyone else
right.
does. Um, and what I finally came to terms with, my realization was for someone to hurt me that badly, I must know them on the other side and they must be one of my best friends. Because the
Hmm.
truth is, if I'm in control of this life, and I believe that I am on some level, okay, if I made this plan and I decided I was going to be victimized and tortured on that level, which was the worst, that I've ever felt, if I was going to have somebody do that to me, I would only do it with someone I trusted. And
Hmm.
I know that sounds weird,
That's
but
it's an interesting way to view it, I guess. Yeah.
it's how I had to make sense of it because
Sure,
because
sure.
I had to say like why would I do that? I know me and I wouldn't want to be tortured. I wouldn't want to be hurt. I wouldn't want any of that to happen. But if I
Right,
decided that I needed that for some kind of understanding that was going to help me later in this life, which it does
right.
every day, um, I would probably partner with a friend to do that to me because I
Hmm.
wouldn't want some
That's
stranger to
really
do that
interesting.
to me.
Wow.
That's a very
Yeah.
intimate thing to be tortured with someone. So that was the understanding I finally came to. I went, well, if I was going to make an agreement with someone to hurt me like this and to put
Right,
me in
right.
this vulnerable state and to spend 10 years of my life on this problem, with
Hmm.
this person, it's probably someone I trust greatly on the other
Hmm.
side, and that's
Well,
probably why
that's
I can't
I'm
hurt,
glad I'm
can't
glad you've
hate
come
him.
with a paradigm that makes sense for you.
Yeah, I don't know that that's
Yeah.
right. I just know that that's where
Yeah,
I'm
I don't
coming
think we'll ever
from,
know until we get to the other side,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
But what I
Um,
do know is that this life is not what we think it is.
right, right.
What were you gonna say?
I was just going to share. I know I talked to you about. I mentioned this to you when we had our preliminary meeting, but
Yeah,
I like I said, I don't know if Danny was really a humanitarian or not, but something
yeah.
that did happen. He
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a very spiritual person either,
Yeah,
but before he died, it was quite a while because we had that period of time where we I didn't really see him.
yeah.
I was working with Danny, and he told me he had a dream about Richard, and in the dream, there was this figure on a horse and dressed in a
Mm-hmm.
cowboy outfit. And the cult, the guy that was the starter of the cult, the originator of the
Yeah.
cult, William Branham, he was a cowboy-like figure. He
Okay.
hunted, he had a cowboy hat. But
Yeah.
it was in the dream, the guy was like a skeleton, almost like death.
Oh.
And in the dream, Danny said that this person came to him and said, I want Richard. Danny asked him what he wanted. He said, I want Richard. And Danny told him in the dream, he said, you can't have him. Take me instead.
Oh.
And yeah, shortly after was when he was killed.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
there's I don't know if that means anything or not, but I just thought it was an interesting dynamic
Well, I think
that's
it's
part of this picture.
significant because maybe it was part of, him, maybe it was part of his soul making an agreement to leave, you
Who
know?
knows? Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I definitely don't understand dreams. I've definitely got
Well,
a lot of my
so
own that
here's
I
a
don't get,
here's a
but
question I want to ask you.
yeah.
And I know we're probably running out of time, but
Yeah.
so being part of the Leyba brothers,
Yeah.
and they all died on the 11th, 30 years apart.
Yeah.
Um, so 30 years from my last brother's death, 2015, am I going to pass away in 2045 on April 11th? Do you think?
Would that be
I'll be 87.
would that be the next like
The
pattern?
30-year increments. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
the next 30 years. That's
Yeah.
somebody to mention that to me after when Richard died, when I told him that
Yeah.
Danny and Richard both died on the same day. And they said, well, maybe you've got 30 years left. That was, a few years ago
Yeah.
because Richard's been gone about 10 years now.
Yeah. I mean,
And I know you don't have the answer for that.
I
I know, of course
definitely
you,
don't know that.
yeah,
And that's
but
not something that
who
the guides
knows?
would tell me
Who knows, right? Of
probably.
course not. But it's like,
But
if I live that long on April 11th, 2045, I'm going to
yeah.
be really thinking about it.
Yeah. I would definitely say that if that is going to happen, you're
Yeah,
going to know it before it happens because you're
sure, for
probably
sure.
going to have one of those dreams like Danny had.
Yeah.
That's what I would think. Because I've had a near-death experience and I also have been
Wow.
asked if I was ready to die twice. Um, so do before the near-death experience, I I had a lot of things happen where I knew that it was coming. And
Right, right,
maybe I didn't understand exactly that that's what it was leading to, but I was having very profound things happen that it was definitely leading to that, now
right,
looking
right.
back. Now the other two, I was directly asked, "Are you ready?"
Wow, wow,
And it was
wow.
like it was like one was kind of a dream, but it wasn't a dream because I wasn't asleep. I was in my
Right,
bed
right,
and I was almost asleep, but I kind of like went to this space where I was talking to someone and I didn't really understand like who I was talking to. And they said, "Are you ready to go?" And I said, "No, I have a lot to do still." And they said, "Well, let's think about it." And we talked all about my life and we talked about what I was doing at the time and did I want to leave? And I said,
right, right.
"No," and then within 2 weeks, my ex died suddenly,
Wow.
who I believe was my twin flame. And and I just got so mad. Like I got so mad because I said, "Well, you ask me if I'm ready to leave, but you don't tell me the context. Like you don't tell me, oh, you're about to go through the biggest thing in your whole freaking life that you can't handle, you know? You don't
Yeah,
tell
for
me
sure.
that. You just say, "Are you ready to leave?" Well, of course I wasn't ready to leave. I was doing like the biggest things of my life at the time, and I was excited about them. But if I had known the context, I may have made a different choice. I don't know
Right,
that I
right.
wanted to survive that, but they didn't tell me that part,
Of course.
but they gave me the option to leave. And I think
Right.
it's because they knew that I was about to experience something that was soul crushing.
Hmm. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, and then I was given the option one other time, and that one wasn't as profound. It was just kind of like I was asked, and I was like, no, that's ridiculous.
Right, right.
And then of course when I was suicidal, the option wasn't there, So it
Well,
was
yeah, for
like
sure.
when I was suicidal, the guides almost like laughed at me, and they're like, "You're not even gonna do this. Just knock it off." Like they were like, that
Wow.
you're not gonna do this.
Right.
I mean, go through with the theatrics if you need to, but like, come on with it. We have work to do.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
they didn't really take me seriously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that you'll know because
Yeah.
I think we all
W-
know on some level, even if it's not that direct.
I had a dream recently about my
Mm.
dad and Danny.
Yeah.
And in the dream, I told you at periods of time we all worked together as painters.
Yeah.
Um, Danny and my dad were together, and I think I've dreamt about my dad more than any of my family members.
Yeah.
They were working on this house, and it was like the most bizarre, strange house you'd ever see. Right? I can't even
Mhm.
describe it. It was just
Yeah.
so weird. And my dad said, "We want," and they were really happy, Danny and my dad.
Hmm.
And my dad asked me, he says, "Well, we want you to come help us work on this house."
Yeah.
And in the dream, I remember telling them first, kind of blowing it off, and then my dad being kind of persistent. We really want you to help us with this house. And
Yeah.
I remember the dream getting mad at my dad. And then I said this, which was really weird. I said, "I can't come help you. I'm still in school."
Mm.
So it was weird. And when I
Yeah.
thought about it afterwards, I thought, I'm still here for a reason, and
Yeah.
I still have a lot more to learn,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
that could have been you saying that. Like that could
Yeah,
have been exactly what that was, where they were
right,
asking you, "Are you ready?" And you were
right.
saying, "I still have a lot to learn. I'm not done."
Yeah,
You're
exactly, for
also on
sure.
your last life. And so you may feel like you haven't quite completed everything until, you get very close
Sure.
to the end.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
I feel like I sure still have a lot of work on myself to do.
yeah, I will say, I used to joke a lot for a long time. I used to joke about, you know, I would always say something like, if someone tells you that they've figured it all out, it means they're leaving. It means they're done.
Oh, gee, yeah,
But I was joking about it. I
right.
said it like in passing. I didn't ever really think about it. Okay.
Hmm.
And then last year when my dad got sick, I went to see him at the hospital. And the very first day that I was there, he said, "I figured it all out. I know it all now."
Oh,
And I
oh, that's so
said,
sweet.
I said, "Really, Dad?" And I said, "What do you know? What did you figure out?" He goes, "Everything. I could tell you anything. I know everything now." And I got very sad because I knew he was dying.
Oh, that's sweet.
It was my sign actually. And
Sure, sure.
and he did die 3 weeks later.
Jeez, jeez.
And so I think it's a clue, like if
Right,
anyone ever
right.
says, "I've got it all figured out, I know all the answers now," it's probably a sign that they're out of here because they don't have anything left to learn, at least that they believe
Hmm.
that they have.
Sure,
So I
sure.
don't know that they really have all the answers, but if they
Right.
think they do, then they're probably done learning here, you
You
know?
probably now. Interesting.
And yeah, and so when you were asked that, I bet you that was your soul replying, saying, "No, I'm not done with these lessons."
Right, right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Also, have you ever had, like, I don't know how real that dream felt, but have you ever had dreams about your passed away loved ones that felt like you were
Oh,
right
yeah.
there and it
Yeah,
was
I have a
real and you
few.
woke up?
This one was fair. It wasn't as realistic as some other dreams I've had, but it was
Yeah.
fairly realistic.
Yeah, if you ever have a dream with people on the other side that you know are not here anymore,
Hmm.
and you wake up from that dream and you feel like they were really here and you feel like you
Right.
really did stuff together, even if it was still a dreamscape, like still a dream reality inside the dream, um, that's a visitation. That's not a
Hmm.
dream. They
Sure.
will
I've thought
come.
about that before. Yeah.
Yeah, they will come into our dreams and they will visit us, and they do that pretty regularly. We don't always remember it. But when we
Sure.
do remember it and we wake up like we have spent the whole night with them hanging out, we really have.
Right. Wow.
And
Interesting.
yeah, because I've had visitation dreams my whole life. And
Wow.
they're amazing. Like I have them with everyone pretty much that passes away in my life. And at some point they'll come to me and they'll talk to me. And mine always have patterns that are the same, like it'll start out in a
Hmm.
dream and then it'll go into something else. But I always wake up knowing that that really happened.
Yeah.
And it did. It really happened because they tell me things that I wouldn't know, you know.
Yeah, for sure. For
So.
sure.
But yeah, and then the other thing that I told you is that if you're not feeling them around you, I know that they actually are, because our
Hmm.
loved ones are
Right.
always with us.
Right. Right.
If you're not feeling them around you and you want to feel them around you, you want to have some kind of communication or some kind of notification of communication. I was telling you before we started this to write a letter to them, like write a letter to each person that you want to connect with that is not here anymore. and ask them for signs. Like tell them this is the thing that reminds me of you, whether it's a song or a smell or
Hmm.
a flower or whatever it is. Say this is the thing that reminds me of you. Will you show that to me and show me that you're here with me still? And they will, you know?
That's cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. Of course. So, did I answer your questions or
I this is this I don't know if anybody can fully answer the questions or have a
yeah, I don't
definitive,
know.
but you helped a lot. You really did. Thank you
Mhm.
so much. It was
But
really fascinating learning more about what the numbers mean, and
yeah.
I really appreciate your time, and this was really meaningful for me. So thank
Yeah.
you.
I think it's really fun. I think your family is fascinating. I really kind of encourage you to write a book about them.
Well,
Like
my wife is an amateur genealogist, and we've learned
okay.
so much about both sides of our family. And you wouldn't believe some of the
Yeah.
stories we found about both
Yeah.
sides of our family. It's just unbelievable.
Nice. You should write something about
Yeah,
it. Like write
that's what I feel
stories. Yeah.
that's what I feel like I should be doing. So
Yeah, that would be
that's why
fun.
I'm trying to turn over the Enneagram stuff to my daughter so
Yeah.
I can maybe
Yeah.
focus on doing this other stuff. So
Yeah. That's a great idea. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to meeting your daughter and to
yeah, she's looking forward to meeting you too. So
yeah.
I'll make
So
sure
we're gonna
if you've contacted her already, right?
I don't think I contacted her yet.
Oh, okay. I'll give you her
I don't know, but
information.
we'll figure that out. Anyway,
Okay.
thank you for being here
Thank you so much,
and thank
Tammy.
you for sharing your story with us.
Yeah, thank you
And
for having me. It was really great.
yeah, I think people are really gonna love this. So this
Well,
was
good. I
really
hope so.
fun.
All right. You take care.
Thank you.
All right. See you.